In the year 410 AD, the unthinkable happened. Rome, the eternal city, fell. For 8 centuries, she had stood supreme. Her legions were undefeated, but on August 24, 410 AD, the gates of Rome were breached, not by a rival empire, but by a barbarian king named Alaric. Alaric was the leader of the Visigoths, a powerful Germanic tribe. He was a warrior king, a cunning strategist, and a ruthless conqueror. Alaric's story is one of ambition, betrayal, and the fall of an empire. It is a story that is still being uncovered today. Alaric was born on the island of Puce at the mouth of the Danube River around 370 AD. This land was known as Dacia. It lay on the very edge of the Roman Empire. His people, the Visigoths, were a Germanic tribe displaced by the advancing Huns. Growing up on the fringes of the Roman Empire, Alaric would have been exposed to both worlds. He would have seen the power and wealth of Rome, but also the hardship of life on the border. This dual existence shaped his destiny. He would become a fearsome enemy of the Romans, but he also admired their culture and achievements. The Visigoths were allowed to settle within the empire's borders, but they were treated with suspicion by the Romans. This bred resentment and anger in the hearts of the Visigoths. Alaric's generation grew up with a deep sense of injustice. Alaric came of age in a period of great upheaval for the Roman Empire. The empire was vast and unwieldy. It was struggling to hold its borders against barbarian invasions. The Roman army, once the most disciplined fighting force, was a shadow of its former self. It was plagued by corruption and inefficiency. In this crucible of war and chaos, Alaric rose to prominence. He joined the Roman army as a young man, seeking glory and advancement. He quickly proved himself a natural leader. He possessed a keen military mind and a charismatic personality. Alaric fought for the Roman Empire in the Balkans. He participated in the Battle of the Frigidus River in 394 AD. The Eastern and Western Roman empires clashed in a brutal civil war. Alaric and his Visigoths fought for the Eastern Emperor Theodosius I. They helped secure a decisive victory. But the victory came at a cost. Thousands of Visigoths lost their lives fighting for Rome, fueling their resentment. The death of Theodosius I in 395 AD threw the Roman Empire into chaos. The empire was divided between his 2 young sons, Arcadius in the east and Honorius in the west. Honorius was just a boy, easily manipulated by his ambitious advisors. The Visigoths saw an opportunity in this turmoil. They rebelled against Roman rule and elected Alaric as their king. Alaric was a shrewd and ambitious ruler. He knew the Visigoths could not hope to defeat the Roman Empire in open battle, so he adopted a different strategy. He would use the empire's own weakness against it. He raided and plundered the wealthy provinces of the Balkans and Greece. This forced the Romans to buy him off with gold and concessions. Alaric's tactics were brutally effective. He led his warriors on a series of devastating raids. He sacked cities, plundered the countryside, and took thousands of Romans captive. The Roman authorities were powerless to stop him. Their armies were too weak, their leadership too divided. Alaric's reputation as a fearsome warrior and a cunning strategist grew with every victory. He became a legend in his own time. He was a hero to his people and a nightmare to his enemies. For years, Alaric kept the Eastern Roman Empire off balance. He demanded land and recognition for his people, but the Eastern emperors refused to negotiate with him. Frustrated, Alaric turned his attention to the Western Roman Empire. He set his sights on Italy. In 401 AD, Alaric led his people across the Julian Alps. They descended into the heart of Italy. It was a bold move that caught the Romans off guard. Alaric's warriors ravaged the countryside. They marched towards Milan, the capital of the Western Roman Empire. Panic gripped the city. The young emperor Honorius fled to the fortress city of Ravenna. The Western Roman army, led by General Stilicho, confronted Alaric at the Battle of Pollentia in 402 AD. The battle was fierce and bloody, ending in a stalemate. However, it was a strategic victory for Alaric. He had shaken the empire to its core. Despite the setback at Pollentia, Alaric's grip on the Western Roman Empire tightened. He continued to raid and plunder Italy. He forced the Romans to pay him vast sums of gold and tribute. His ultimate goal remained the same, to secure a permanent homeland for his people within the Roman Empire. He set his sights on the ultimate prize, the city of Rome itself. In 408 AD, Alaric marched on Rome for the first time. His appearance outside the city walls sent shockwaves through the empire. Rome had not been besieged by a foreign enemy in over 8 centuries. The city was ill-prepared for a siege, its defenses were weak, its granaries low, the citizens were gripped by fear and despair. Alaric did not immediately storm the city. He knew that Rome's defenses, though weak, could still hold out for a long time. Instead, he opted for a blockade. He surrounded the city, cut off its supply lines, and waited for the Romans to come to terms. The city held its breath. The siege of Rome threw the Western Roman Empire into turmoil. Honorius was powerless to break the siege. His advisors squabbled amongst themselves, blaming each other for the disaster. The only man who seemed capable of dealing with Alaric was Stilicho. But Stilicho was a controversial figure. He was a Vandal by birth and distrusted by many Romans. They whispered that he was secretly in league with Alaric. Stilicho argued that the best way to deal with Alaric was to negotiate with him. He believed that Alaric was not interested in destroying Rome. He simply wanted what was best for his people. Stilicho's enemies seized upon his heritage and his willingness to talk to the enemy. They accused him of treason. They spread rumors that he was plotting to overthrow Honorius and install himself as emperor. Honorius, easily influenced and fearful for his own position, listened to Stilicho's enemies. He ordered the arrest and execution of his most capable general. Stilicho's death was a disaster for the Western Roman Empire. With Stilicho dead, the Western Roman Empire descended into chaos. Honorius, holed up in Ravenna, seemed content to let Rome fend for itself. The city's Senate, desperate for a solution, opened negotiations with Alaric. They agreed to pay him a vast ransom, 5,000 pounds of gold, 30,000 pounds of silver, 4,000 silk tunics, 3,000 scarlet-dyed hides, and 3,000 pounds of pepper. Alaric lifted the siege and withdrew his forces from Rome. But the peace was short-lived. Alaric had demanded one more thing from the Romans, formal recognition of his people's status within the empire. He wanted land for his people to settle on. He wanted to be appointed as a Roman general. He wanted to be the legitimate ruler of a Visigothic kingdom within the Roman Empire. The Romans refused. Alaric felt betrayed. He had shown remarkable restraint and spared Rome from destruction. In return, the Romans had offered him trinkets and empty promises. He would teach them a lesson they would never forget. In 410 AD, Alaric marched on Rome for the second time. This time there would be no negotiations, no ransoms, no mercy. The gates of the city were opened by slaves who had been promised their freedom. For 3 days, the Visigoths ran riot through the streets of Rome. They looted palaces, temples, and homes. They set fire to buildings. They killed anyone who got in their way. The sack of Rome was a traumatic event for the Roman world. It sent shockwaves across the empire. It was seen as a symbol of the decline and fall of Roman civilization. However, recent scholarship has challenged this view. While the sack of Rome was shocking, it was not as destructive as previously thought. Alaric ordered his men to spare Christian churches and to treat Roman citizens with a degree of respect. After the sack of Rome, Alaric led his people south. He planned to cross over to Sicily and establish a Visigothic kingdom in North Africa. However, a storm destroyed his fleet before it could set sail. Alaric, his dreams of a Visigothic kingdom in Africa died soon after, probably from fever. He was just 40 years old. Alaric's death did not end the Visigothic threat to the Roman Empire. His successor, Ataulf, led the Visigoths out of Italy. They eventually settled in southern Gaul and Spain, where they founded a powerful kingdom that would last for centuries. Alaric's tomb is said to have been located beneath the Busento River in southern Italy. According to legend, the Visigoths diverted the river and buried their king along with a trove of treasure in the riverbed. Alaric I was a complex and contradictory figure. He was a ruthless warrior who brought the Roman Empire to its knees. He was also a skilled politician and a cunning strategist. He was a product of his time, an age of violence and upheaval. Alaric's legacy is still debated today. Some see him as a barbarian destroyer who dealt a fatal blow to the Roman Empire. Others view him as a tragic hero, a man who fought for his people's survival. Whatever one's view, Alaric I was one of the most consequential figures of the late Roman Empire. He left an indelible mark on history. His story is a reminder that even the most powerful empires can fall. The story of Alaric I, the Visigothic king who sacked Rome, is a story that deserves to be remembered. Thank you for joining us on this journey through history, on History Uncovered. We're passionate about bringing you the stories and events that have shaped our world, and we're thrilled you're along for the ride. If you enjoyed this episode and want to explore more historical tales, make sure to hit that subscribe button and turn on notifications so you never miss an update. Your support means the world to us and helps us continue creating content that dives deep into the past. We'd also love to hear your thoughts and suggestions, so feel free to leave a comment below. Thanks again for watching, and we look forward to seeing you in our next adventure through history.